It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
This Bryan Kohberger, in the Bryan Kohberger case, is there a accomplice? Is there a confidential informant? More docs were leaked out, or not necessarily leaked out, but more docs were brought to life here recently in the last couple of days or yesterday, which also used the word confidential informant. So this is the state's motion in order to temporarily seal the stipulation and release property and release docs pending hearing. And we'll go through this document and we'll talk about it. So this is the state of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. The state of Idaho, by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney, respectfully moves the court pursuant to Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32G1 and Idaho Code 74-124 for temporary order sealing the stipulation to release property. All related documents, including Exhibit A and B, and any other order filed herein, because release of disclosure would 1. Interfere with enforcement proceedings, 2. Deprive a person of a right to a fair trial, 3. Constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal property, and number 4. Disclose the identity of a confidential source and or disclose investigative techniques and procedures. Interesting. Wherefore, the state respectively prays to the court temporarily seal the public disclosure herein under the provisions of Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32G1 and Idaho Code 74124, pending hearing on the matter. So the state is really trying to keep things under wraps. Right. And use a lot of words. Okay. I understand once or twice, we had Kevin Gringley and Anya Kane from Murder Sheet on the podcast. Kevin Gringley is an attorney, and he talked about what boilerplate is, which is basically a copy and paste of documents that would be universal, so to speak, in a certain criteria. I understand maybe one of those things happening in one document, but in multiple documents that comes forth, whether it's a confidential source, informant, it continues to come up. Like I said, one is maybe a mistake, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern here, and this is multiple times here. Big Blue, do you think that at this point somebody disclosed something by some means to point the finger and point the direction to Bryan Kohberger?
I don't think so. Because I just think what I read, the reason why they're trying to do all this is because they don't want us, the people on the internet, to blow it up out of proportion, and they're not going to be able to get a fair trial for when they call the jury summons. They're trying to get everybody to know the least they can about this case. So when they call them to do the jury selection, it'd be a fair trial for them.
Well, it's going to be very difficult for Bryan Kohberger to have a fair trial anywhere in the United States. This case is huge. Now, are there people out there that aren't aware of this case? Probably so, but those folks are probably far away from Moscow, Idaho. The closer you get to that direction, the more of this information is out there. Clearly the state is trying to hide this stuff. Perhaps they don't want to fuel some fire that could speculate there being some kind of reasonable doubt out there. But I'll tell you what, all this secrecy and all this hiding, and we still haven't even gotten the 911 tape. That to me is insane, right? It's what are you hiding?
The 911 tape, and also, I'm pretty sure when the officers showed up on scene, they had body cams. They haven't released no body cam footage of the scenes and everything. I mean, I know it's respect to the family, but in a lot of other cases, they show that stuff.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. In a lot of cases, they show a lot of these things, especially once and after a person has been arrested or charged. I understand the secrecy and whatnot prior to an arrest, but once an arrest has been made, I mean, you can look at it in any high profile case. I mean, look at the one that's currently, it's not, the criminal charge that is Alec Baldwin. This is an actor. He's being charged. We have, 911 tapes. We have the interrogation. We have the, the body cam footage from the incident. And in this case here, it's like the police department is trying to cover up as much as they possibly can. Is it that there's maybe perhaps a lack of evidence here, and they're still gathering information? At this point, up to the point where the police arrested Kohberger, there were some things that weren't found. Right? You didn't have the search of his apartment complex. You hadn't had the search of the vehicle and the results of those things, the results of the personal belongings that they took up, the book that's underlined, the whole 9 yards, right? And I would assume that there's some really hard concrete evidence there, especially in the car, for them to really make their case pretty concrete. The fact that they're trying to hide things and stuff kind of leads me to believe that maybe perhaps it's not as strong as we would like to hope. What do you think?
I don't know. I think they have quite a bit on them. The DNA is going to be pretty big on there. Because I was looking at reviewing another case, and they got the guy on charges without a body. You know what I mean? On the case that I was looking at, and it's just like a half-page sentence of what the judge had to sign off on to charge him, and he charged them. So this thing has like a paragraph of stuff. So a couple pages worth of stuff. So we'll see, man.
For sure. Thank you so much, Gail, for your $5 super chat. We appreciate you with your super sticker. Thank you so much. Yeah, we had a comment in here saying that Fry had stated that the 911 tape would come out, right? And that it would come out, fairly sooner than later, as far as, after the arrest was made. Still has not come out. It just seems like, in my opinion, you look at the Richard Allen case, and it seems like, his attorneys that came out and said it was flimsy, it was weak, and that them wanting to seal that case up as tight as they had was an indication of how weak that case is, right? I mean, that's the illusion that the defense is coming out forward with Richard Allen. I can't help but feel the same in this case here. That maybe it's not that strong. I understand that they want to, maybe perhaps keep this there in Moscow and try to get a jury that's not going to be, get a jury that's right for them, but that's going to be very difficult to do. I think that they probably needed to move it out of there. I mean, the city isn't very, very large at all. And so let's read this. This is the in-district court of Second Judicial District of the state of Idaho, and for the county of Latah, state of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger, based upon the motion to seal the stipulation to release property and all related documents here filed here, then the court does hereby confirm that order, that stipulation to release property and all related documents include Exhibit A and B, and this order are confidential, exempt from disclosure, and are sealed pursuant to Idaho Court Administrative Rule. Reasons stated. And so this was motion until April 1st, 2023, whichever occurs first. And so for everybody that's just jumping in, they wanted to, the reason that they're going with this seal is, and thank you so much, Patty Riddle, for your $9.99 super chat. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Is right here that the reasons that they want to, the order is to be filed would be because they were trying to prevent interference with law enforcement proceedings, deprive a person of a right to a fair trial. You see, like, if that's the one and only thing, right? Deprive a person of fair trial, just put that in there, to put the other ones, you would assume that there would be something that would fall into there. So constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy, disclose the identity of a confidential source, and or disclose investigative techniques and procedures. So more and more thoughts and questions coming forth, making me believe that perhaps there is something to there being an accomplice and or an informant. Blue, In your opinion, if there is one, would you think that it was either an accomplice or an informant?
I would say more like an informant. Maybe a witness that saw something, and or maybe somebody drove with him. Remember, he drove out of his way, not on his way home. Maybe somebody went with him and waited in the car,
That's
and
true.
maybe he dropped somebody off. These are all theories that we have, but the more and more, that they're trying to hide stuff, and the stuff he said himself. He said, did they arrest anybody else? Was anybody else arrested when he was arrested? So maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's looking more and more in that direction. Um, just being honest. For me, there's been a lot of people that have, a lot of rumors that have come forward that perhaps it wasn't Kohberger, or perhaps that he was just a getaway guy. And one reason being that he didn't have any scratches. There's been nobody that's come forward to say that he's had any injury to his arms, his hands, his neck, his face. Um, we can pull up pictures of people that have had that, that have committed a heinous crime like this, up and close. And, there's humongous amounts of scratches, cuts on the neck, things like that. And to me, it's just, it doesn't make any sense for it. At this point, not to make sense. Sorry about that. I'm reading something. For me, it doesn't make sense that he would go in there, commit this crime against 4 people, 2 that are possibly alive, and come out without a scratch on his neck or face. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough, but he was wearing a long sleeve, I believe. Didn't say he was wearing a long black shirt, so that would prevent scratches. The mask, that would help in case he, would have got punched in the face. You wouldn't see it right away, but you would have seen it a couple of days later. You always see the bruising on the face or the bruising around the eyes. They take a while to go away. So and nobody in class said anything. The doctor didn't say that he saw anything. So I'm pretty sure we would have already seen evidence of that.
Yeah. No, yeah. There was a picture of him in that turtle suit to protect him, and his neck and his face were exposed, and so was his shoulders. And you just don't see anything that would make you think that he was in an altercation that severe. And he also went to the doctor. He also attended his class the very next day. He really didn't change his schedule up much after the incident. Now, one question that always, that I've brought up many times, is that, the initial spotting that we're aware of in the probable cause affidavit is that he was heading westbound at 3:26 a.m. at the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive. There is a house that has a ring camera in this area right here. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. And at 3:28, he's passing this intersection here. And what do you call it? That's a direct pass. At 3:29, he's at the resident's house being picked up on the ring camera. So he was coming from the east, traveling west, when if he was coming from his house, as it's been speculated, he would have been traveling eastbound from the west, if that makes any sense. And we have a $20 super chat. Didn't NN wear a scarf to cover his neck in his interview? He may have.
It's the Drunk Turkey Show.